Hey, Gaming Geek here with another video on how to make 3D printed buildings for Joan of Arc or any 15mm game. And so I have here these 3D printed printable scenery models that I have shrunk down. So here is the regular size right here, standard 28mm scale. And what I did was I grabbed the same STL files and I printed them at 40% of regular size. I did do a little bit of an experiment, and I did print this guy here at 36%, and that actually matched the base of these little houses that came with the set. But printing it a little bit bigger at 40% makes it more to scale, since these are undersized actually. And so I think they turned out really cool. So this is the governor's mansion. Again, here's the comparison between the regular size and the full size model. And so I printed out 5 different buildings. Here is house, and then the ruined version here, which I think looks really cool because it looks like the dragon took a bite out of this building. And so as a ruined set, that looks really awesome. And then this building over here, this is one of my favorites, which is the lighthouse, and I really like having a tower version. So I think it's going to work really well. You can use these as stand-ins instead of these buildings that came with the game, or you can create a village like I am here, where you have a lot of buildings that you can put on the field. I know that we're going to get more buildings with the second wave shipment for Joan of Arc, but in the meantime, I think these guys look really, really good. And so I'm going to show you a tutorial on how to paint these guys. And I'm using the same paint schematics that I did with these buildings, as well as the larger buildings. It's pretty much the same paints. And if you need to see that video, go ahead and click here, and you'll be able to see that tutorial as well. So this tutorial is going to be pretty brief. It's going to work through just the governor's mansion here, but I'm using the same technique with all of the buildings. And for this month's giveaway for my Patreon supporters with the raffle, I'm going to be giving away 5 buildings. These same 5 buildings, one lucky winner through the raffle drawing for at the end of this month of June of 2019 is going to win all 5 of these buildings. Unpainted, of course, so I'll be shipping these unpainted to you. I am pretty amazed at the level of detail that the printer was able to print. So if you look at the window of some of these buildings, I didn't think that the printer was going to be able to print, and in fact there was some failures if you look at some of these windows. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and go into the tutorial to show you how to paint these. Alright, we're going to be priming these with my favorite primer, Camouflage times Ultra Cover. This is the Earth Brown. If you don't have this brand, go ahead and just pick the darkest brown that you can. And I put these on their sides so that I can get underneath the eaves. Alright, so now I'm going to use the Chalky Finish Anvil Gray for these ones. I'm going to spray them with this gray dark gray primer. Okay, so the first thing I do is use zinc to color all of the stone parts. So even though I spray painted this with the dark gray, I do go ahead and put this zinc on there because this is a little bit lighter than the spray. And so I went ahead and went over this. And then also this part, which I primed with the brown because most of it is brown, I went ahead and painted this. So I'm not going to show you how I painted that, but that is the first step. Also, something that you need to do is, I'm not sure if it's because I shrunk them down, but these will not sit flush, different layers. And so what you need to do is cut off the tips of these so that it actually will go flush. And so I just use my clippers here and just pop off the tops of these. And then after you do that, you'll notice that these actually sit a little bit better. And I do super glue these on after I'm done painting because I don't really have any intentions of sticking in any of the miniatures in there. They actually won't fit in there. So I go ahead and glue these once they're finished, and I'll go ahead and clip these as well for the roof. Alright, so the next step is to take the slate gray and you're going to dry brush, not quite as much as you did with the zinc on here, because you're only going to be highlighting a couple of the stones, so don't put it on quite as thick as you did the other stuff. Next, you're going to grab the burnt umber and color in all of the wooden parts that you spray painted with gray. So this is going to be just along the window here, and then along these rafters as well. These rafters. And just tilt them to the side. Like so. Get the seam across here. And flip it over. Do the other side. And just do that going all the way around. Alright, next you're going to grab your terracotta or any other lighter brown, and we're going to go over all of the wood parts. Just going like this. And don't worry about getting it onto these panels. We're going to be making those lighter beige color. But for now, you don't need to worry about not getting this lighter brown onto there. And typically, I will need to do 2 coats of this. So after it dries, I'll go back and do another coat. And then you gotta be more careful with these one pieces here, so you don't get it onto the stone. Like that. Just all the way around. Now once you get all the way around, it should be dry enough for you to put on a second coat. Go ahead and do that all the way around. You're going to do the same down here, but obviously be careful not to get any of this on the stones. And then finally you also want to do the roof as well. And there's a lot of wooden parts to this roof. At this point, I go ahead and glue this thing together, just because I think it's easier to handle. Alright, so next we're going to go ahead and use toffee berlingot or any kind of beige or off-white. And I'm going to use my pretty small detail brush because some of these spots are pretty small, like up here. So I'm slowly just going to go into these spots in between to color this a beige color. And so some of these places are really tight, and that's why I have my detail brush working for me. Now, an alternative to doing this method is to go ahead and color first before you do the wood, this beige color, because typically when you're painting you want to paint the most recessed area first and then the raised surfaces last. So sometimes it's easier to do that because even here you see that I got a little bit right here on this raised edge, so it's hard not to do that, and I'll have to go back and touch up some of those spots. So it is up to you, but the reason why I did it this way was it was easy for me to dry brush the whole thing first with the wood before going into here, but your mileage may vary, and so you can decide what you want to do first. But I'm going to go ahead and fill in all of these spots like so, and this is going to take a while. And as you can tell, I'm not going right up against the wood. I'm leaving some of the dark brown that functions like an outline. That's one of the techniques I really like, is using the darker colors as a border, and it provides contrast, which I think looks better. Alright, so now after doing all of the beige, I'm going to go ahead and do the roof, and for the roof we are doing Georgia clay. I'm going to grab my big brush, make sure it's dry, and we'll be dry brushing the roof here. And I usually have to do 2 coats of this stuff. And notice how I am avoiding going down into the crevices, right, so that it remains dark brown, and you get this effect where you can see the shingles pretty well, like so. Be careful not to get your chimney or the other parts, and just run it across like so. And then on the front as well. So after you put 1 coat on, go ahead and put a 2nd coat just to brighten it up some and make it more even. And then lastly, I take my Hachette copper or any other metallic that you want to put on there, and I color these roof items, chimney things. Just put it on like that. And then this guy over here. Now, this thing is really thin, and so basically if you drop this model at all, this top is falling off, I guarantee it. Alright, so let's go ahead and do a comparison between the Mini-Me version and the regular version here. And I think they look pretty darn close to each other. And so pretty much use the same colors for both of them. Obviously it was a lot harder to get these really narrow spots with this beige, but overall I think it looks pretty close to the larger version. So yeah, this turned out really well. I'm really impressed. So there you have it. That is the tutorial. These are pretty easy to paint, especially since they're smaller, they go faster to paint rather than these larger models. But I think they turned out really well. And so once again, become a patron supporter so that you have a chance to win all 5 models that will be shipped to you if you are the Patreon winner. So thanks again. Please subscribe and like the video, and we'll see you next time.